This is the tale of a tiny little terrifying dog named Nunu and his tiny little not so terrifying human named Tina. They were the very first guests on The Dog Whisperer with Caesar Milan. It's also a story about what we can learn from animals and also how the universe always has our back. You were on the not only the first season of The Dog Whisperer with Caesar Milan, you were actually the very first show. So it was you and your little dog, who I refer to as the Satan dog, having watched that show and watched that episode and not knowing I would ever meet you, let alone become friends with you. But poor little Satan Nunu Chihuahua. So first, tell me about Nunu first. I don't know if you can adequately do justice to little Nunu in words, but do your best to explain little soul.
Well, I can start with saying he was the spawn of Satan.
Okay.
I mean, I never knew a dog like this. And literally someone handed him to me and he curled up here and I thought he was the cutest thing ever. And I'm like, I'll find him a home. He's great. And somebody tried to approach him about an hour later and he just was at their hand. And the guy was like, oh, he's a little touchy.
Who was this person that just gave you a dog and said, here, take a dog?
Well, I was working at a vet's office because I decided I wanted to work with dogs. So what better way than go get a job at a vet's office? So.
And personality wise, so he immediately seemed to take to you, but then, and this is why Caesar stepped in, and we'll talk about this in a second, but from what I remember, if anyone else was near you or around you, the dog the dog apparently thought it was like a 300-pound dog, and these fangs, what was it, the gremlins who, when they got wet, they like turned into like that?
Oh yeah, that was him.
The dog was terrifying.
Well, and then I called him Linda Blair from The Exorcist because his head, I mean, if it could have spun all the way around, it would have in those moments. And I didn't know anything about dogs at that point in that sense. I just thought you love a dog and they're going to be fine. And,
Nope.
you know, going into a little bit, if I want to think back at that moment, I was trying to keep people away from me.
Ooh. Yeah, and that's actually
trying.
I love that you bring that up, because what we're going to talk about in a little bit is we're going to talk about the psychology of dogs, but also the psychology of people and how they're very intertwined.
One night I'm on Craigslist and it says, do you have an aggressive dog? Are you at your wit's end? Your friends and family don't like your dog or can't stand your dog. Yeah, I thought it was written for me. So I went in, and you go in this room and they get, they ask you all these questions. And then they said, does he have separation anxiety? And I walked out of the room and he freaked out. And they're like, yes to everything, check the boxes. And they said, okay, we are going to use you. So we ended up being the first episode.
And I remember you saying you thought if the episode was just going to be about the dog. You didn't realize that you would even be on camera, let alone have Caesar do his little voodoo magic into your psyche. And you were just like, take the dog, make him better. It's the dog's problem, not mine. So talk a little bit about
what happens now in my world.
The student becomes the teacher is what happens. So we'll move on to that in a bit, but yes.
Correct.
Talk about that.
They walk in, we did the steam clean of the entire house. We know they're filming. My roommate and I, they walk in and they tell me I have to change my jacket because it's not good for camera. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah.
For camera.
Yeah. What? I have to be on? Yes, it's about you and the dog. And I went, oh, I'm not doing this. So I did it. I wasn't happy about it, but I did it. And it all turned out okay.
So what in particular did he narrow in on or hone in on about your personality and your situations and your dynamics that were sort of affecting and interacting with Nunu. And I know I'm not putting you on the spot because you talked about this on national TV. So
I talked about this. You're not putting me on the spot. I'm happy to talk about it, but I didn't even know what he was talking about when he was sitting in my living room. It's such a whirlwind, and it is all in the now, but you're trying to take in all this information and you don't really realize he's going to zero in on you. I missed a lot because when he left, I looked at my roommate and said, well, now what the hell are we supposed to do? Yeah.
What the hell just happened?
But I felt this attraction to him, and a spiritual attraction to him. And I looked at her at that moment too and said, I think I want to go work with him. So fast forward to me watching the episode. And he said, when I first met Tina, she was weak.
Ooh.
And everything in my being wanted to scream. What do you mean I'm weak? I'm from Jersey. I'm a tough girl. I have battled and gone in and defended every friend I've ever had. But what I was doing was defending me and holding on to the dog for protection.
So he was your canine shield. He was and it ties into what you were saying about,
oh yeah,
you want to be, you were sort of, even before the dog, separating yourself from people. And so here the universe presents this perfect, actual physical way to do it. Wow. So what did you have to adjust in yourself to adjust Nunu, and did it work?
So this was all back in 2004. So he started with, you've got to go walk this dog at least 45 minutes a couple times a day. And I'm like, oh, well, I was trying to hide from that world out there.
You mean I have to
gained a bunch of weight. People I don't want people to see me. And I started walking, and everybody focused on him because he was cute. People really noticed him. So he was really a good shield. They noticed him before he was on TV.
There's two things though. He was a good shield, but also, and you and I talk about what we say we want, but what we really want. Now, you may have outwardly thought that you wanted to repel people, but I'm sure internally part of you was lonely and wanted people. So what this dog did was sort of attracted people to you, but you can do the game where they're not attracted to you, they're attracted to the dog, and the dog is, there's many levels there, which is interesting.
Oh yeah, it was the complete opposite. And then we went on TV, and then it was bigger. I couldn't, and this sounds so weird, and unless you walked with me, you didn't know, but walking down the street, every time somebody stopped me.
That's a beautiful story. And, it leads me to, I had read an article and it talked about in the animal kingdom, the only animals that are neurotic are human animals, unless the animal has been raised by or abused by humans or had a lot of human interaction. So, you're not going to see a neurotic giraffe. The reason cats and dogs and bunnies and stuff are neurotic is they literally take on the crap of their owner. So let's talk about that. You said as soon as he left your house, you were kind of like, I think I want to go work for him being CESAR MILAN. So you did.
I was going back east and I quit my job. The lady was really abusive and she'd call me an idiot every day. Nothing I could do was right. It was always me. And one day I just said to her, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. And I left. So I told CESAR, his office, I'm not going to go home for Christmas. I lost my job. And his assistant at the time said, do you need a job? And I said, yes. She said, board the dog here. He was only boarding him for $10 a day. She said, go back east. And when you come back, you have a job here.
Oh my God, the universe is just, we've spoken in broad terms about this whole thing, but it's so much bigger. Was this your first introduction into like going with the flow and letting the universe take care of everything?
I wasn't even thinking about that,
right?
Really, until it was all over. I was like, wow, this was all really just like set right up. And all I had to do was make a decision. I want to work with dogs.
Yep. I have goosebumps. Like it's such a good example.
I know. Still, it all happened in like 2004, 5, 6, and it's still to this day gives me chills when I talk about it.
What do you call yourself? Because you're not exactly a dog trainer, but I don't know that there's a word or a phrase or, you sort of facilitate a relationship between the dog and are you a dog and human behavioral specialist?
I don't have a title. I tell people when they call me and ask me what my methods are, because everyone's stuck in a method.
Labels.
And I say, I want to help you build a better connection with your dog.
There's your tagline, baby. There you go. Got your tagline. You're welcome.
Perfect. Thanks.
You said it. I just
branded me in 5 seconds. I love it. But for real, that's it. And I didn't always do that back in the early days, but the more I became connected with myself and the people in this world and the dogs, the more I realized people have lost their connection with their dog.
Well, we've lost our connection with everything. We don't, and I'm not even talking 2020 when we literally lost. What led us to 2020 was we had already lost our connection with everything, right? We're not connected to our health. We're not connected to the planet. We're certainly not connected to our neighbors, let alone our country, let alone the world. So yeah, on the very minimal scale, like, of course you should be connected to your pet, but we're so disconnected from ourselves that we can't connect to anything.
That was it. So it wasn't till I made the connection with myself, mind, body, spirit. It's there now. And I know it because of things that happen. It just, even just this morning, I said something and 5 things coincided with just saying it.
That's the alignment. And it's such a beautiful thing. And you can't really get it till you get it. First of all, once you see yourself clearly, you can see everybody clearly, which is amazing. And once you're in alignment, then the universe sort of conspires to align with you, and it's really cool. And what I like about what you do is there's not a method, there's not a one size fits all. Every person, every pet, every relationship situation is different. And I've seen you go in and you just observe, and then you kind of custom design a game plan, or not a treatment plan, but a methodology around that. So can you talk a little bit about what you observe and how you work?
I mean, as you were saying that, I was going to say to you, I just go in and observe. And I tell people, of course, I tell people on the phone before we even meet up. And I'm a referral-based business only. So I don't have cards out there. People aren't wondering. Someone else already kind of sort of told them. So what happens is like I walked in yesterday. It's a big dog. And he's anxious, and he never used to be, according to them, but then he had 2 surgeries and he was kind of pent up for almost a year. And all this anxiety grew. So I'm observing, and I'm going, this can't be brand new. In the process of talking to the people through this, the guy says to me, I've been nurturing this whining behavior for his whole life. He said, I didn't even realize it because it wasn't intense. It was just little.
Yeah.
And he said, this is amazing. I can't even believe it. And the next day, we barely did anything. We stood by a gate for an hour and 20 minutes. I love the tail in the face. I wish I had a tail in my face right now.
Do you work with behavioral issues with cats by any chance?
You can actually. Someone told me you can't tell a cat no. And I said, yes, you can. And I did. And it worked.
Had the guy not realized that he'd been dealing with this with the dog forever? Or did he suppress
it? Oh yeah. He said the whole story just played in my head from day one until now.
Now, is there usually and whoops, there it is moment, is there usually a big, people say things thinking that it's true. And then is there usually a big whoops, there it is moment where it's like, oh.
The really successful ones, that happens.
I just did a blog post called How Getting Sick Made Me Healthy, and how so many people want change, but they're not willing to change. So I'm sure a lot of people come in and they want you to change the dog's behavior, but do you find people resist that they're going to need to change their own behavior in order to get their desired outcome?
Well, a lot of it is I don't tell them that they need to change because unless they bring it up.
Okay.
And I don't even tell them that. I say this dog's going to help you change that if you're willing to go through the process.
So you're sort of like a parent who takes vegetables and you deep fry them so the kids don't know they're eating vegetables. You do that with your clients. So you're affecting change in them without them actually realizing that that's what's going on?
Because I realize if you tell people what you see in them and they're not ready,
yeah,
that's it. It could be really yucky for them.
Yeah.
And in the long run, it may be really good, but it also may trigger things that they weren't ready to have triggered. It can't find you till you're ready.
So it's the Distinguished Dog. Do you have a website?
I do my Facebook page as my business. I just
give that out there if people want to friend you or whatever. What's the?
It's Tina Madden, and you'll see me, so you'll know. It's pretty simple.
I know you said you work through referrals only, but if someone sees this in LA and needs some help, can they reach out to you through Facebook, or no? Should they stay away?
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's a takeaway for people and their relationship with their dogs or their pets, what in a nutshell, 60 seconds worth of advice could you tell them to consider when thinking about how they relate with their pets?
Take a step back and see what's really going on in the big picture, and really live in the moment with your dog. Because everything that I hear is, well, what do I do if this happens? And what do I do if that happens? And I said, but that's not happening right now.
And again, a perfect example of life. We're never in the moment. We're always getting ahead of ourselves. What if? You
have to live in the moment with your dog if you really want to help them.
Subscribe to the blog, amaximizedlife.com, on Instagram, a.maximize.life, on Twitter, amaximizedlife, and on YouTube, amaximizedlife. 2 X's. Talk to you soon.